Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going deep into IoT security,
Oh, yeah.
specifically Wi-Fi routers.
Okay.
You've probably heard about the U.S. government maybe banning TP-Link devices
Right.
because of security concerns.
Yeah.
We're going way beyond the headlines, though.
Okay.
We've got this fascinating YouTube video, and it features an ethical hacker
Oh,
breaking down how vulnerable these devices can be.
I think people will be surprised.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So this video features Matt Brown.
Okay.
He's an ethical hacker and a penetration tester.
Right.
And he even won a hacking competition
Oh, wow.
that was specifically focused on hardware.
Okay.
So he definitely knows how to get under the hood of these things.
Penetration testing is really important
Okay.
for cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Essentially, these ethical hackers like Matt, they get hired to break into systems
Okay.
to find weaknesses
Right.
before the bad guys do.
So they're playing the role of the bad guy to help make things more secure.
Exactly.
And-
In this video, Matt shows two main ways for exploiting IoT devices.
Okay.
UART and flash storage manipulation.
Let's break those down,
Okay?
starting with UART.
Okay.
What is that?
Think of UART as like a hidden back door
Okay.
in the device. It's a physical interface
Okay.
that can give you direct access to the device's command line.
Oh, so you can control it.
Basically, yeah.
So it's like having a secret passageway
Yes.
straight to the device's control center.
Yeah, a perfect analogy.
Okay, cool.
And Matt shows how he uses a multimeter to find the UART interface
Right.
on a TP-Link router,
Okay.
and then he connects to it using a special cable.
So once he's in,
Yeah.
what can he do?
Well, he has a lot of control at that point.
Okay.
But the video goes on to show another method,
Okay.
flash storage manipulation.
All right.
This one's even more involved.
Okay, lay it on me. What's happening with the flash storage?
So flash storage is where the device's firmware is stored.
Okay.
That's essentially its operating system.
Right.
To access it,
Yeah.
Matt goes to the extreme
Okay.
of actually removing the flash chip
Wow.
from the router's circuit board.
Okay.
He uses a hot air gun
Wow.
to desolder it.
That's going the extra mile.
Yeah.
Why go through all that trouble?
Well, by extracting the firmware, he can analyze it for vulnerabilities
Okay.
and potentially find sensitive data.
Like passwords.
Like passwords, yeah.
Does he actually find passwords by doing this?
He does.
Wow.
He finds what's known as a password hash,
Okay.
which is a scrambled version of the password.
Right.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
He takes that hash and just searches for it online,
Ah.
and he finds the default root password for the device.
Oh, wow.
Publicly available.
Wait, so anyone could potentially find this password?
Unfortunately, that's a common problem. With a lot of IoT devices, they often come with weak default passwords.
Right, yeah.
And many people never bother to change them.
That's a bit concerning.
Yeah, it makes things much easier for hackers.
Yeah.
And the video really highlights the dangers of this.
Okay.
Matt shows how, armed with that default password,
Yeah.
he can easily access the router's web interface.
Okay, so he's in...
Yeah.
What's next?
Well-
What kind of trouble can he cause?
He shows how he can identify a unique string of code
Okay.
within the interface that reveals the specific model of the router.
Okay.
Then, using a service called Shodan.io,
Okay.
which is essentially a search engine for internet-connected devices.
So it's like Google,
Yeah.
but for finding potentially vulnerable devices.
Exactly.
Out in the wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
He searches for that string,
Yeah.
and wouldn't you know it,
What?
he actually finds a TP-Link router in Taiwan
Oh, wow.
that's publicly exposed on the internet. This means it's likely vulnerable to the same exploits he's just demonstrated.
That's a bit unnerving to think about.
Yeah.
I mean, why would a hacker target some random router in Taiwan?
Right.
What's the point?
There are a couple main reasons why hackers target IoT devices.
Okay.
One is to use them as hot points.
Hot points.
Yeah, for launching other attacks.
Okay.
So basically, they hijack your device to bounce their attack traffic through it,
Okay.
making it harder to trace back to them.
So it's like making a prank phone call
Yeah,
and disguising your number.
that's one way to think about it.
Okay.
It adds a layer of anonymity for the attacker.
But if someone's just using my router as a hot point,
Right.
does it really affect me?
It could.
Okay.
If your device is being used to launch attacks,
Yeah.
it could slow down your internet connection
Right.
or even get flagged by authorities
Oh.
as being involved in malicious activity.
Yikes. Okay. Not ideal.
Right.
You said there was another reason
Yeah.
for targeting these devices.
The second reason is even more worrisome.
Okay.
Particularly with routers.
Uh-huh.
They're essentially the gateway to your entire home network.
Right.
If a hacker gets into your router,
Yeah.
they can potentially access all the devices connected to it.
Oh, wow.
Your computer, your phone,
Right.
smart TV, even your smart refrigerator.
Okay.
Anything connected to your Wi-Fi network.
So everything...
You'd be vulnerable, yeah.
Okay, now this is getting really interesting.
Yeah.
We're seeing how a simple device, like a Wi-Fi router, can become a major security risk.
Right.
If it's not protected properly.
Exactly. And this brings us back to the whole discussion about the potential ban on TP-Link devices.
Right.
Is this a manufacturer-specific issue?
Right.
Or is it a much broader problem with IoT security in general?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think we'll need to delve deeper to get to the bottom of that.
Yeah.
This video has definitely opened our eyes to the potential vulnerabilities of these devices.
Definitely.
But there's clearly a lot more to explore.
For sure.
We'll be back to continue this deep dive after a quick break. Welcome back to the deep dive.
Okay.
Before the break, we were talking about how a hacker could use a router to access all sorts of devices on a home network.
Right.
But is that really common?
Well,
Do hackers really go after individual routers like that?
you have to remember that hackers have different motives.
Right.
Some are motivated by profit,
Okay.
others by activism,
Okay.
and some simply by the challenge.
So they might not be interested in my personal data,
Right.
but they could still use my router for their own purposes.
Exactly. And actually, Matt Brown brings up a really fascinating case study
Okay.
in the video, the hacking team incident.
Oh, yeah. I remember this story.
Uh-huh.
This was a company that sold spyware,
Yeah.
and then they got hacked themselves.
Yeah, kind of ironic.
Yeah. But what does that have to do with IoT devices?
Well, the details of the hack are a bit murky, since the account comes from an anonymous source.
Right.
But it's still a really illustrative example.
So how does the story go?
So according to the anonymous account,
Kip.
the hacker had several options for getting into hacking team's network.
Uh-huh.
They could have tried to exploit vulnerabilities in their website,
Right.
email server,
Okay.
or an IoT device on their network.
And they chose the IoT device.
Yeah.
Why go that route?
As we've seen, these devices are often the weakest link
Right.
in a network security.
Okay.
In this case, the hacker supposedly acquired a similar device
Uh-huh.
to the one used by hacking team,
Good.
reverse engineered it,
Oh.
and discovered what's known as a zero-day exploit.
Hold on. Zero-day exploit.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
A zero-day exploit is a vulnerability that's unknown
Okay.
to the software developer.
Rough.
So there's no patch available to fix it.
So it's basically a secret weapon
Yeah.
for
Yep.
hackers.
Yeah.
So in this case, the hacker had a secret way to break into hacking team's network through this IoT device.
Precisely.
Okay.
They exploited the vulnerability,
Uh-huh.
gained access,
Right.
and were then able to steal sensitive data
Okay.
and leak it online.
Wow. That's a pretty serious consequence.
Yeah.
So does this example support the idea of banning certain IoT devices,
Well,
like the U.S. government is considering with TP-Link?
it's important to distinguish between the two situations.
Okay.
The hacking team hack involved a targeted attack
Yep.
on a specific device.
Right.
The concerns about TP-Link, on the other hand,
Yeah.
seem to be focused on broader security practices
Okay.
and potential vulnerabilities that could be exploited on a wider scale.
So you're saying the hacking team example highlights the risk
Right.
of targeted attacks, while the TP-Link situation is more about
Yeah.
potential widespread vulnerabilities.
Exactly. And it's important to remember
Okay.
that, as the video points out, these vulnerabilities aren't unique to TP-Link.
Right.
It's a problem that affects many IoT device manufacturers.
So banning one manufacturer doesn't really solve the bigger issue.
Right. It's like trying to fix a leaky roof
Okay.
by replacing one shingle.
Okay.
You might address that specific leak,
Uh-huh.
but it won't prevent future leaks
Right.
from happening elsewhere.
So if a ban isn't the answer,
Right.
what can be done to address these concerns?
It's a complex issue with no easy solutions.
Okay.
There needs to be a multi-pronged approach
Okay.
involving manufacturers,
Yeah.
policymakers, and individual users.
Okay, let's break that down. Starting with manufacturers.
Yeah.
What role do they play?
Manufacturers have a responsibility to prioritize security from the get-go.
Okay.
They need to design devices with robust security features built in,
Right.
not as an afterthought.
Okay.
And they need to provide timely software updates to patch vulnerabilities as they are discovered.
So it's not just about making devices smart.
Right.
It's about making them secure, too.
Absolutely. But manufacturer can't do it alone.
Right.
Policymakers also have a role to play.
Oh.
They need to set standards for IoT security, perhaps through regulations or guidelines, and hold manufacturers accountable for meeting those standards.
That makes sense. But at the end of the day, it's also up to us as individuals to take steps to protect our own devices and networks, right?
Exactly. As much as we might want to believe otherwise, we can't simply rely on manufacturers and policymakers to keep us safe.
Right.
We have to be proactive about our own cybersecurity.
Which brings us back to that advice about changing default passwords, right?
Exactly.
That seems like a simple but crucial step.
It really is.
We can all take.
And it's shocking how many people don't bother to do it.
Right.
That one simple action can make a huge difference in your security.
So we've got manufacturers building in better security, policymakers setting standards, and individuals taking responsibility.
Yeah.
But it still feels like we're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah.
There's so much more to explore.
Yeah, it's definitely.
And it comes to the world of IoT security.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We've only just begun to delve into this complex and ever-evolving landscape.
Well, we've got one more part
to
this deep dive.
Yeah.
So let's come back ready to explore some practical steps we can all take to enhance our IoT security.
Right.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
All right.
We've spent this episode uncovering the vulnerabilities of IoT devices.
Right.
But now I want to switch gears and talk solutions.
Okay.
What can our listeners actually do to protect themselves?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that securing these devices isn't as complicated as it might seem. We already talked about changing default passwords.
Right.
Absolutely essential.
Security 101.
Right.
But what else can we do?
Many routers and even some IoT devices allow you to create what's called a guest network. This is a separate Wi-Fi network you can use for visitors, keeping your main network and all the devices connected to it more secure.
So it's like having a separate guest room in your house.
Yeah.
They're welcome to visit, but they don't have access to your whole home.
Exactly. It adds a layer of separation. And helps to limit any potential damage if a guest's device is compromised.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
What else should people be thinking about?
Be mindful of the information you're sharing with IoT devices and their apps. Think critically about whether they really need access to things. Like your location contacts or camera.
It's like being careful about who you give your house keys to. You wouldn't hand them out to just anyone.
Right. Those permissions often give apps and devices more access than they need, which can be a privacy risk. Always review the privacy settings and be selective about what you're sharing.
So guest networks.
Yeah.
We're being careful about permissions.
Right.
Anything else?
This one often gets overlooked. But don't forget about the physical security of your devices. Make sure your router and modem are in a secure location in your home, not easily accessible to visitors or potential intruders.
So it's not just about digital security. It's about physical security, too.
Exactly.
It's like making sure your front door is locked.
Right.
You don't want to make it easy for someone to just walk in.
A good analogy, sometimes we get so focused on the digital threats that we forget about real-world vulnerabilities.
This has been a fascinating deep dive.
Yeah, it has.
We've learned so much about IoT security.
Definitely.
I'm feeling much more equipped to deal with it now.
That's what we hope for.
For those who want to learn more, are there any resources you recommend?
Absolutely. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, has some excellent guidelines for IoT cybersecurity. And organizations like the SANS Institute offer more in-depth training and certifications in this field.
We'll be sure to include links to those resources in the show notes. As we wrap up, what's the one key takeaway?
Think of security as an ongoing process. Not a one-time event. Stay informed, be proactive, and don't hesitate to reach out to a trusted cybersecurity professional if you have questions or concerns.
Great advice. It's like maintaining your car.
Yeah.
You don't just take it in for a tune-up once and forget about it.
Right. You need to stay on top of regular maintenance to keep it running smoothly.
Exactly. A little preventative care can go a long way. Well said. A huge thank you to our expert.
Oh, thank you.
For guiding us through this deep dive into IoT security.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this episode informative and empowering.
Yeah.
Until next time, stay curious.
Stay safe.
Stay informed and stay secure.